let's start with the lineup. Stana, how was your feeling when you saw the lineup? Were there any names that jumped out to you that you thought these names are a bit iffy and you would have wished someone else came in? What was your first impression of the lineup?
Yeah, my first impression straight away, I looked at the centre back pairing. Thought the centre back pairing, the way that they were well coordinated against England was very good news. And I thought going into the third game, we would see how they would fare again. You see, centre back pairing, they need a connection. The longer they play together, the better it is going into our next games. But he brought in Lucasen. I don't know for sure if it is fitness issues. I don't know what it is, but that is what straight away jumped out to me. Then we moved to the midfield.
Jerome Opoku was on a yellow card, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Okay.
yeah, I think he was on a yellow card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that now. So maybe that was the decision why he brought in Lucasen. Then we go to the midfield. Elisha Owusu, Kwesi Sibo. Elisha didn't start the last game. Kwesi Sibo did, and Kwesi Sibo did quite okay with Partey in there. So the midfield, I didn't have much of a problem with the midfield. Only a tiny bit because I felt the midfield was a bit too rigid, and the most creative player in that midfield is actually the one who usually sits in between our two centre backs. So
did you expect Yirinchi to be dropped?
I didn't expect Yenchi to be dropped, but thinking about it, I also felt maybe the manager was thinking about again yellow card accumulation, just like you mentioned for Jerome. Maybe he was thinking about it as well because Yenchi had 2 yellow cards in the first yellow card in the game against Panama and another one against England. And considering the fact that by the round of 32, depending on where we play in Canada, Partey wouldn't be available for that game. And if Partey is not available when Irenchi is also suspended, we are doomed. So maybe that also went into his thinking in deciding not to start Irenchi, especially in a game where we were not obligated to win by any means. And then we go to the forward
We'll
area.
come back and talk more about the fact that we didn't need to win the game. We'll come back because I think it did affect everything we did on the day. So we'll come back and talk about that. What about the front three?
Yeah, the front I didn't expect Kamal Dean again. I don't know. Maybe the manager has seen something we haven't because he keeps on selecting Kamal Dean. In the Wales game, started him against Panama. Kamal Dean has never showed up. And he started him again against Croatia. But this time he started him on the wing rather, on the left wing. And Kamal Dean for me shouldn't have been anywhere near the lineup. And then he went with Jordan again. In a game where we weren't obligated to win, I felt maybe this time he would try something new, maybe start Brandon Thomas Asante, but he still went with Semenyo Jordan, and then he brought in Kamaldeen Sulemana. So those were the notable changes that I saw during the game.
Okay, so I think with Kamaldeen as well, I kind of saw him playing a bit more central. I didn't see him on the wing much. He was on the wing for a while, but for the most part, he was inside the middle. Most of the touches he got were in and around the middle third of the field. So that is that for Kamaldeen. But the next thing I want us to talk about is the goals that we conceded, especially the first goal. Let's talk about the first goal. We'll come back again and talk about some of the individual players. The first goal, before they scored the first goal, I think they had about 2 shots from the same position, in and around the same position. One of them went wide. One of them hit the post, the right side of Benjamin Asare. And then the third one went in. What was causing that issue? It seems we had an issue with closing down the man with the ball right around the D, right? That D around the 18-yard box. Why did we have that problem? Did you see anything that jumped out to you about that particular issue?
Yeah, I think it comes from transition by Croatia. And when the game started, at times you would see that Croatia weren't pressing us from the front. They allowed possession. in and around our own box, waiting for us to make mistakes, and then they could capitalize on it because they've seen that if they have majority of the ball like we did, like England did against us, and I think they learned a lot from that as well. So they knew having the majority of the ball, having that sort of control with Modric and Kovacic wouldn't always be the solution. When they do have the ball, they will try and play, but when they don't, they wouldn't necessarily try and get it back as soon as possible. Just relax, all men behind the ball, try and be compact, then see what happens from there. And since we going into the game not being obligated to win, not really expecting to have majority of possession on the ball, when we got the ball, it's like, now it's a surprise. We have the ball, we have time. What are we doing with the ball? No solutions. You could see Semenyo and Kamaldeen, like you rightly said, always try to drift into midfield, but the ball has to those forward areas drifting into those half pockets or half and spaces needed to be located by our midfielders or one of the centre backs, line breaking pass. There is only one person in our team that can do that, and that is Thomas Partey. And the person that can do that was very much so dropping too deep in between our centre backs. So he wasn't always able to do that. Now, the other two midfielders, Sibo and then Elisha Usu, those two players are the opposite of what you need from your midfielders when you want your midfielders in playing balls in between the lines. They are not midfielders that can do that. They lack the technical know-how to do that. They are not even confident enough to receive in those half spaces with their back to go. So it always meant that we would eventually, with having the ball, eventually we'll start giving away possession loosely, and we started to do that. They got a first chance, it hit the post and went wide, and that is why when it happened the second time, because we were trying to have possession and they robbed it from us, or we made a mistake and they took it, we became a bit more exposed, and there was a lot more gaps for someone like Partey to cover. That's why he considered that free kick. Remember, I considered a free kick to, I think it was a goal scorer. Considered a free kick to him because there was a large space. In the game against England, there wasn't even one instance where Partey was late in the tackle because it was always close. But this time, because we were a bit exposed, he was having to cover a bit more ground because Elisha and Sibo weren't always in close proximity to him. And that is how come they got that time and space in zone 14 of our box, and then they were able to score that goal.
Okay, so let's look at the overall tactics of Croatia. What they tried to do was to try and not press us, allow us to bring the ball forward, get into their half, and then they start to activate a sort of gentle press. They weren't
Yeah.
pressing too much, but it was a gentle one that forced us into some errors. And then when they were also attacking, what I saw was that Croatia weren't committing too many bodies into our final third. So whenever we won the ball back, we still didn't have enough space to transition quickly. We couldn't hit the ball on to our players because they still had enough bodies at the back. They commit maybe 4 players maximum to our final third. The rest are behind the ball. So even when we win the ball back, you have 6 players to deal with. So we couldn't really go back or transition quickly. So I think that was one of the issues. But when it comes to the way that we're conceding transitions, do you think that it is because of the fact that mentally we couldn't switch on, we couldn't really bring ourselves to that high level where because we needed to win the game, we would have really be up and running? Do you think that maybe because we had already qualified, the players were a bit relaxed, and maybe that caused the many transitions that we conceded? Because that could be an issue.
Yeah, that is a factor that you can't discount. But what I would also say to that is someone like a France, they had also qualified, but you saw the way they played against and in their last group game. And this is the difference between a team like France who have already qualified and a team like Ghana who also had already qualified. When you have that sort of quality, even when you drop that 1% that you need in terms of motivation when there's something on the line, because we don't have that quality, you need that extra 1% from the fact that there's something on the line to fight for. That 1 year that you need to add, that we had in that England game in terms of covering grounds and making it more difficult for the opponent. This time, we lost that edge because there wasn't much on the line. And because our quality isn't really up there, the quality cannot take us to where we needed to get to. And so without us having much on the line, it affected us, the players mentally. But I will put that more to the tactical side of it for me, because watching the game, you could quite clearly also see that even aside the players not really being up for it like they would in the England game, where in a sort of game like that, the players don't even need motivation for it. They know the whole world is watching Ghana versus England, so they will put everything on the line. But against Croatia, where they know they've already qualified, they might probably slow down a bit. Some are thinking about not getting a yellow card, maybe an injury here and there. So the tactical plan from the manager in that first half was absolutely off. We had no width on the wide channels. Anytime the ball went to a right back or left back, when they open up their body, there was no pass on the outside unless they come inside, either go to midfield or go to the back again. So very predictable and easy for Croatia to set, wait for us to make mistakes, pounce on it. So it was very easy for Croatia.
Yeah. Another thing that I think we need to talk about is the midfield, especially in the first half. Do you think what was the problem really? Because we couldn't progress the ball at all. Whenever we had possession of the ball, it was Partey, Lucasen, and Ajite. Those three at the back. Partey sitting in between those two centre backs, and they were just circulating the ball among themselves without necessarily penetrating the formation of Croatia. Why did we have that issue? Is it because Elisha Uzu and Sibo are not like people who can? Because I felt like they weren't showing for the ball. They weren't. They were mostly in areas where we couldn't access them. And even when they did show for the ball and receive the ball, Elisha Usu on several occasions had the opportunity to move forward, but he decided to pass the ball back. So do you understand the thinking behind playing Sibo and Elisha Usu in that first half?
That was an absolute disaster. Maybe the manager didn't foresee Croatia handing that much time and possession to us in the first place. Maybe that he baked that into his thinking that we wouldn't have majority of the ball. So playing Sibo and Elisha in the same midfield wouldn't really matter because they would have more defensive duties to do. Because when they had the ball, oh goodness, that their technical know-how is of such a low quality, to be honest with you.
In the second half, something changed. In the second half, we could see that we were attacking with more precision, we were attacking with more speed, so we were able to get some opportunities. It wasn't really big chances, but we were able to get opportunities that could have resulted in a chance, a big chance, or even a shot on goal. So what changed in that second half? We remember that there were two substitutions right at halftime. So before we came in, there were two substitutions. I've forgotten who was taken out or who came in, but there were two substitutions. Do you remember those substitutions?
Fatau came on
Fatau,
for
yeah.
Elisha.
Elisha Usu.
Fatau came
And
on
then
for
there
that.
was
I
one
think
defender who was taken off.
Niama also came on for, can't actually
Ajete.
remember who it
Ajete.
was. Ajete, yeah.
Was it Niama who came on? No, he brought Opon.
No, yeah.
Opon came in for
Came on
Ajete.
for, yeah.
Yeah, Opon came in for Ajete, but that change by the Niama change came afterwards. It came during the game. I think it was around 78 minutes. Yeah. It was two changes, Opon and Fatau, who came in the second half, I think. Yeah. So was that alone the main thing that resulted in the Black Stars being able to create more opportunities, or what exactly?
Yeah, it was partially part, or not partial, predominantly. I think that was one of the main reasons because we needed width, and he brought us that, not just on Fatah's side, but in the second half, Sulemana was a was touching the touchline a bit more than he was in the first half. And that is where he got that ball, got into a very good opportunity, the chance to cross, and then he absolutely blazed it over the bar, attempting to cross that ball. But that was the change that actually helped us have a bit more cutting edge up front, and then we were able to get a bit more into their final third and be a bit more dangerous. But
So
still,
would you say
the
that
final ball
the
was the
the
problem.
coach realized he made a mistake? Would you
Yes, I think so.
say that the coach realized that the lineup, the initial lineup, wasn't the right one, especially the fact that he put both Sibo and Elisha Owusu in the same lineup? Because I think those two players, they give you the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you are really going to play any of them, it should be just one of them. If you play both of them, you are absolutely in trouble because you are not going to be able to progress the ball. You
Mhm.
you you just can't progress the ball, and your build up is going to be slow. It is going to be interrupted very easily by the opponent. So taking Elisha Osu out at halftime could be an indication that the coach realized that he made a mistake.
Okay, I would say it wasn't a mistake simply because I don't think he planned to have that much of the ball. And so from the onset, the plan going into the game wasn't to have much of the ball. But here lies the case. It got to a time, okay, now we have the ball. Then it means the plan goes out the window. Now we have to change. And that is why I would say in the context of what I felt his plan was for the game, it wasn't a mistake, but it became a mistake during the game when he realized, okay, this actually isn't working because the plan has gone out the window. And that was the
Let's
reason
talk
I felt
about
Flatko Dalic.
Jordan. How did you see Jordan's performance in this particular game, especially in that first half? Given that in the England game, quite a number of people were happy with the way he was able to hold up the ball and relieve pressure. Did you think playing him in this game, he was able to do that? And did his style of play, holding up the ball and trying to win foul? Because I think there was also a point in the game where he was trying to win a foul. He was pulled down and the referee didn't give the foul. I
Yeah,
think most of the time in this particular game, he couldn't win the foul, even though
yeah.
he was pulled down or he went down. And at times he went down quite easily. Did you think it was a right decision to play Jordan in this particular game?
It's a bit similar to the Sibo and Elisha one because the plan wasn't to have the ball. So when we do have the ball, try and go long. He tries to bring it down, win a foul if he can. If he can't, he lays it off, and then we go from there. But with having the ball, Jordan Ayew can't run the channels really effectively like we would want from an attacker. Some unlike maybe something Prince Edu can give you running the channels or Brandon Thomas Asante can give you. He offers something else. And you could also see that the referee really did his job in the sense that he knows that this guy likes to go on the ground. And so I wouldn't be letting him get it easily. So even at times when it was a foul, he still didn't give it because he felt this guy always does this all the time. So I'm not going to give him that chance to be getting fouls very easily. And so even when it was a foul, he wasn't giving it. But that Jordan should have also recognized that the referee isn't giving it. So I don't have to go down easily anymore. I have to stand my ground, hold the ball up as much as I can, lay it off, and then we go from there. But he was still going down at every opportunity, giving up possession, and that also allowed Croatia, whenever he lost it, we became exposed, and then they tried to have that transition against that, and that was their game plan going into the game to let us
Yeah,
jam. They tried to bait us in areas where okay, this is it. Then they bait us, win it in that particular area, then try to come at us. And so Jordan's game yesterday was
it
absolutely
didn't help us.
absolutely poor. It didn't help us at all. It
Yeah, it didn't
actually
help us. I think
handicapped us.
we needed someone who could move the ball much quicker and lay
Yeah,
it off because I think there were a few occasions where he could have released the ball but he was waiting for the contact. He was waiting for even though his player was already there, release the ball, and then he'll get pulled down or fouled. The referee may or may not call it, and then we lose possession. But let's also talk about Antoine Semenyo. It wouldn't be fair to only talk about Jordan Ayew, because I think Antoine Semenyo also didn't really show up in this game. He was extremely quiet in the first half, but in the second half he had a few glimpses, but still it was quite far and few in between. How did you see his performance?
Yeah, like I said, that stylistically, you can't play in between the line football with Sibo and then like Owusu. You can't do the same thing playing Semenyo in between the lines. Takes too many heavy touches on the ball. He likes to receive it when he's touching the wing, like he does for Manchester City when he's on the right with Cherky and the likes and behind. Or you put it into the space, then he runs onto it in the final third to have a shot on goal. So 3 out of 5 times he'll take a bad touch in between the lines because he's just not that sort of technical. Someone like a Ryan Cherky, he's just not that sort of player. And that's not necessarily his fault. But of course, Antoine Semenyo playing for the Black Stars, not just about the game yesterday. This is something that has been happening ever since he started playing for Ghana, where it is always not the same Antoine Semenyo we've seen for either Bournemouth or for Manchester City. And personally, much of it is not necessarily his fault, but at times he also needs to show a bit more personality in the game, try to do a bit more as well. But again, like I said,
Sort of
the
take the
way.
game by the scruff of the neck type of thing.
Yes, yes, like how we see Jude Bellingham do for England. I'd like to see him do that more. Like how we see Kudus at times, he also does it for us. But also, you have to consider the profiles. Semenyo is not like Kudus, and so when there's a lot of pressure on Semenyo, especially without Kudus being around, why isn't he performing the same way that Kudus at times does? What Kudus does, his ability on the ball, Semenyo doesn't really have that. So we also need to consider that as well. But overall, and Semenyo in the first half, we saw a glimpse of what he's capable of when he got that ball in between the line, drove it just across the post, and it was just a few inches wide of the mark. That is what
in that
Semenyo Good
particular
does.
in that particular case, you would expect the number 9, whoever was the striker in the
Yeah,
game. I'm not even sure who was the striker in this game, whether it was Jordan or it
it
was
was supposed to
Kamaldeen.
be Jordan.
Nobody was in that far post to try
Yeah,
and get a tap
Jordan
in.
is too slow. He can't get there. Even at times when he's able to lay it off, he's not fast enough to be able to arrive in the box to finish it off. He can't. So,
Yeah. Anyway,
goodness.
let's talk about Kamaldeen Suleiman. That we have a Kamaldeen shaped hole in the Black Stars that we need to fix. We need to find a solution to that particular problem. He had 2 chances in that second half. One, the ball was laid off to him inside the penalty box and he couldn't sort his feet out. He fell over the ball. Basically, the ball tripped him. The second opportunity, he had the ball. We had a counter-attacking opportunity. He had 2 options, actually 3 options, two on his right, two on his left, one on his right. The right option, I thought, from where I was sitting and where I was seeing the game, was the right choice, the right option. He decided to go for the left option. And even if the ball had got into the player, it wouldn't have given us the right angle to create a shot on goal or to create a chance. I think the pass on his right hand side would have given us the better opportunity to score. He went for the left one anyway, and yet couldn't make the pass. What at all should we do about Kamaldeen Sule? Is he going to improve, or do you think that all hope is lost?
I, I don't know where to start from here. I don't even know how to start it. Kamal Dean was the most expensive player to be transferred from the Danish league into the French league, surpassing a record that was previously held by Alexander Sorloth for £20 million. He was one of the brightest young stars coming out from Norgeland back in the day. He was a huge prospect who was tracked even before he went to Rennes. He was tracked by clubs such as Arsenal and the likes. A lot of Premier League clubs kept tabs on him, but those moves didn't materialize. Moved to Rennes, moved to Southampton. They went down to relegation, got a move to Atalanta, and Sulemana we do not know when Sulemana will take off. Nobody knows when Sulemana will take off. So supposed to be in the same echelons as Jeremy Doku is right now, but Sulemana has, and that very part where he's able to get to the bar line, he took on his man, dribbled him very well, got to the bar line, trying to put in a cross, then he skies it. It's the literal definition of Kamaldeen Sulemana's career in a nutshell. The final ball. Absolutely horrendous. The final ball. Anytime he gets on the ball at times, actually I can see something here. Kamaldeen can see little bits and pieces, but that is all you will ever see. You watch him week in, week out, and he never really offers you that. And I'm not quite sure what Carlos Cross has seen. Maybe he does so well in training and he thinks he can replicate it, but Kamal Dean has played over 30 games for the Black Stars, scored 1 goal, made his debut for the Black Stars in 2020. Up till now, Kamal Dean is still yet to make us all proud of what we thought he would be. So it's a shame.
Okay, let's try and get to the conclusion of the video by talking about Benjamin Asare. Some people believe at the very least he could have done something about the first goal, if not the second
Oh,
one. And others also believe there was nothing he could do about it. First of all, let's let viewers know that the first goal, it went through 2 players. So it went
yeah,
around the first player, Thomas Partey, who was trying to block it, and then it
yeah.
went in between the legs of Lucasen before it went in. So normally when the ball goes through the legs of players, it is very difficult for the goalkeeper to see the ball before it gets to him. So that is the first thing. Do you think he could have done something genuinely about that particular first goal? Or it was something that could have beaten any keeper?
Yeah, actually, I'll combine the 2 goals and give you a straightforward answer. No, he couldn't have done anything about any of the 2 goals. If you were asking me if Alisson Becker could have done something about the first goal, I would say yes. But Benjamin Asare couldn't do anything about those 2 goals, especially the second goal.
And
I think
Benjamin
the second
Asare is
goal
not Allison.
beats any goalkeeper.
He's not
The
on
first
Allison's
goal,
level.
Benjamin Asare is not a world-class goalkeeper. So you can't tell me Benjamin Asare should, like, he
And no
should be able. No,
no goalkeeper is even at that level when it comes
no.
to
So
the
I
the,
think
the African teams.
it's a
Right.
bit ridiculous to me hearing people say he should have that. Could he? Probably, but Benjamin Asare is not a top goalkeeper in the first place. So there are some things that you should be able to see and recognize that he doesn't have the capability or the quality to actually do it. So you say,
I think
okay,
it goes back
maybe for
to the conversation about Benjamin Asare or Atizigi. It is just the doubters rising back up again to say
Atizigi
that
couldn't
okay,
have done
we
anything
said it.
about it either.
Yes. I think that's where this is coming from. It's coming from the fact that people who didn't believe in uh, Benjamin Asare in the first place would come and say that yes, this is what we're talking about. But I don't
Yeah.
think
And to
it's
the viewers,
justified.
that's not to say that I have something against Benjamin Asare, but we all should just be realistic with ourselves that Benjamin Asare is not at a very high standard. He is, for me, the one that should be imposed because he has done quite well, and so he deserves the spot that he has in the qualifiers. He proved his worth ever since he came in, so he should be in the post. But could he have done something, or should he have been able to do something? No, the answer is no for me. He did whatever he could, and just before the second goal, he made a remarkable save to tip that ball to over to the corner just before we conceded that second goal. I think that was a very, very good save.
Okay, let's move on to talk about Ghana's goal. We can't leave here without talking about the goal because Ghana don't score a lot. And so far, we've scored 2 goals in 3 games. So
Yeah.
we need to talk about the goal. We need to actually spend more time on the goal, but we'll try our best. Lucasen. This is one guy that I never had any belief in. Actually, I thought it was a mistake by him starting.
Yeah.
I thought it was a mistake because he's a very rash defender. That is one thing that I know about him. He gets a lot of bookings. And even in that first half, he almost
Yeah.
conceded a penalty. He wrestled one Croatia player inside the
Yeah,
penalty box,
yeah.
and another referee would have given it. We can never. It was a debatable call. So I didn't really believe in him, but the fact that he got the goal, I think he did absolutely fantastic for getting that particular goal. How do you evaluate his performance? Were you impressed by his showing?
Uh, it's a bit. My answer is a bit similar to the Benjamin Asare one. If you know a player's capability, it actually influences how you can judge him. And by your own words, he can be a bit rash at times. And so that particular incident was a bit lucky that he was able to get away with it. But other than that, I thought he was fairly okay. Croatia didn't really put us under huge pressure. We didn't sit behind the ball as much as we did against England. So I thought he was okay and he scored a very good goal. But talking about the goal, um, I just couldn't understand why they called the referee to the monitor. It seems as though they were just trying to find any sort of way to disallow the goal. And I was thinking,
Exactly.
while the referee was on
Exactly.
the monitor, my thinking was the referee is absolutely clueless. The referee is like, why have these niggas called me to the screen? What am I
Now,
looking
let
at?
me ask you
What is
this question.
this?
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah,
What was the on-field decision?
the on-field decision was a okay. The on-field, yeah, it was a goal.
The
The
on-field
on-field
decision was
decision
a
was a
goal.
goal. Yes.
But I've heard people talk about it as if the on-field decision was to disallow the goal, and the VAR had to call him to allow the goal. But for me, I thought the on-field decision was a goal
Yeah, it was a goal
because
if
the,
I
the
remember
referee
correctly.
did not make any action or whistle
Yeah,
to show that it wasn't a goal. So
yeah.
I think the referee had allowed the goal, but the VAR was trying to call his attention to something that had happened, and I have no idea what they think might have happened in that penalty area to warrant calling the referee to the monitor. For me,
It's
it
it's
didn't meet
absolutely
the bar
ridiculous to
for
me.
clear and obvious error.
For Kwesi Sibo was in an offside position, so I think they were looking at him impeding the player from
Mhm.
getting onto the ball. The player was nowhere near the ball. Secondly, the player didn't even fall down. There wasn't any kind of physical contact from Sibo to the player. The player didn't complain either. The player, even after the goal was scored, showed zero reaction. So, and he was nowhere near the ball. So I just couldn't understand why the referee was called to the monitor. But the goal was given and it was a good goal. And I always said before the tournament that we needed to improve on our set pieces because we scored majority of our goals in the World Cup qualifiers um, during set pieces. So I was a bit happy that we did score from set pieces. And then moments later, we conceded from a set piece, which I also spoke about. We needed to be good in our own box and in our other box as well. That second goal, the marking was very poor. And that is how we considered the second goal. So we need
Yeah,
to
the
improve
second
on
goal was
it.
a free header, and
Yeah,
it's very
free header.
disappointing to give a free header from a corner kick after, especially after such a great save from
Yeah,
Benjamin Asari. Remember that it was the resulting corner from
yeah,
that
yeah.
great save from
That great
Benjamin
save.
Asari
We
that was
hadn't even
scored.
done
So
celebrating the
basically,
save.
it rendered the whole save useless
Pointless. Yeah.
because the ball was going in. He prevented the ball from going in, and we contrived to allow Croatia to get a free header to score the goal anyway. So that was quite disappointing. Quite disappointing. But let's try and wrap up. Now we are going to play against Colombia. The question I want to ask about the Colombia game is that has the Croatia coach announced to the whole world that this is the blueprint for beating Ghana?
Yes, he has. This this is quite evidently the way. And I've been watching Argentina and I see Argentina do it all the time. Argentina in the group that they were against Algeria, against Jordan, the team that they played against, they all tried to sit behind the ball and Argentina pulled them apart. So I thought Thomas Tuchel maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he didn't do it in the first place, but Croatia really,
It
really,
is
really
arrogance.
exposed
It is
us.
arrogance. I'm going to say it right here and right now. It is arrogance. It is the same thing. Remember, it's the same thing that was happening to Liverpool last season. We were
Yeah,
so
yeah,
arrogant that we thought we could pin teams back, bombard them with passes and crosses,
yeah,
and eventually
yeah.
we are going to
And
get. We
carve them
never
up.
try to invite teams on us, especially when we play against the smaller clubs, the teams at the bottom half of the table.
Yeah,
We thought, no, we should be pinning them back and scoring them. But that is a difficult way of doing it. There's a simpler
yeah,
way. Draw them out. Like you were saying about Argentina.
yeah,
Argentina can pin teams back and prevent them from getting out. But that is not, there's no need for that. Sit back, give them the ball. You know they can't break you down. You know it. That they
yeah.
are not good enough to break you down. So why try to pin them back and score them? Give them the ball, let them come, they will mess up. And then you can get the spaces. You can exploit the spaces. So that is what Croatia did to us. How do you think Colombia is going to approach the game? Do you think they are going to follow the same blueprint, or they are also going to try and pin us back like England did?
Colombia don't even play that sort of football, pinning teams back. They don't play like that. They also like fast transitions, fast attacks, direct attacks. So I think they will use the same way. And even without watching the Croatia game, I think that is their game anyway. So they are comfortable with that. They are comfortable without the ball as well. And they are even more physical than the Croatia team. So they will let us have the ball in certain moments and then try to nick it off us, go on the direct counter attack. James Rodriguez in that central zones will look to pick players out in wide areas. Rodrigo Munoz on the counter attack will be flying on that wing. So we need to worry of that. We need to have a better plan when we have the ball because we will, in the phases of the game against Colombia, the ball will be with us. And so we need to have a plan. What are we doing with it? And the one thing that was most frustrating to me in that second half, when in the first half, it looked like we didn't have a plan going forward. The inside movement wasn't working. We brought in Fatal. Okay, we started to progress the ball a little bit. Then the final ball, at times it's either he's playing it too early to his feet, it is too in front of him, it is at him. So simple things like that. These are all things that should be getting right in training. No, this should be happening on a match day. So that telepathy isn't there. And those sort of connections is what we need when we have the ball. The movement should be a bit more fluid. And that is what we need. So there's a lot to improve on going into the game against Colombia. And I just hope that the manager will be able to get things right.
What do you think the impact of being clinical will be in this matchup between the Black Stars and Colombia? Do you think we need to be extremely clinical because the chances are not going to be very many, and therefore being clinical might be very, very crucial in this particular game?
Yeah, being clinical has always been crucial. If you are a side like Ghana who treats ball who treat the football like it's hot pepper soup. So being clinical is the hallmark of the football that we are trying to play. And for Carlos Cruz, I think that he also knows. So Semenyo, that chance that it goes just wide of the mark, if it gets into the net, it changes the whole structure of the game. So it is
Okay, not to
something
cut
that,
you, not to
yeah,
cut you, but having said that, having said what you just said,
yeah,
do you think there should be changes in the lineup in the
yes,
first in
Jordan,
the starting 11, especially up
yes,
front?
Jordan, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking at the lineup, and just as we are saying, we will have phases in the game where we have the ball. And when we do have the ball, Jordan isn't an asset that we can rely on at this moment in time. And so Jordan should be out of the team. Now, I think it's a bit unrealistic for me saying that Jordan should be out because quite clearly he will start the game against Colombia again. If you look at how Carlos Queiroz really trusts him, it means he will start. But Jordan should. Brandon Thomas Asante is someone that I think he has a lot to prove, and someone like him should be in the squad. So for me,